Many of us cook daily, or at least watch cooking shows, and most at least cook occasionally. For the most part, we tend to think we have a pretty good grasp of food safety, but there are some things you didn't realize were lurking in the background, potentially making you sick without realizing it, and some things you may have never realized you were doing wrong in terms of food preparation. In this article, we will explore several cooking and food safety tips and tricks. 10 bizarre origin stories about your favorite foods. 10 The bigger concern in cookie dough is not raw eggs, but raw flour. One of the biggest arguments over the years is whether it is okay to lick the bowl, because of raw eggs. There have always been two camps to this. Those who say if they use really fresh eggs the chance is rare, and that it is often survivable. Others argue that salmonella can make an otherwise healthy individual extremely sick, so it isn't worth the risk. However, an even bigger concern when licking the beaters, is actually the raw flour that is often used in baked goods. Some people even think they are fine because their recipe has no eggs, but it still has flour, which has not been properly treated to kill germs like E. coli, until you have actually baked it. 9 You are making a mistake every time you rinse your boiled pasta. While this isn't a food safety issue, it is something that is becoming more and more common on cooking shows, so some of you may have heard of this already if you tend to watch a lot of cooking channels. Some of us even argued about whether rinsing with hot or cold water was better, but it has been a common practice, at least among many in the United States. However, more recently, cooking channels and experts all over have been tutting this practice, and arguing that it is actually a huge cooking mistake. Rinsing your pasta removes the starch, which you actually want to remain on, because it will help the sauce stick better to your pasta. If you rinse it off, it will become too slippery, and the sauce will slide off your carefully prepared al dente pasta. Chefs also recommend keeping back a very small amount of the pasta water to re-add to the sauce, which can help thicken and bind it as you finish it. The only exception is when you are making pasta for cold dishes like a pasta salad, where it could benefit from cooling down to prepare it better for your dish. 8 Proper eating of raw food is actually safe in most cases. One of the more controversial practices among many is the eating of raw food, which many find to be unsanitary and unsafe. There is no doubt that some disease outbreaks have been linked to things like the cannibal sandwich eaten in some parts of Wisconsin as a yearly ritual, which mixes raw ground beef and raw eggs, or improperly kept sushi in places like grocery stores or convenience stores. However, while there are many horror stories, the fact is under the right conditions, you can safely eat many foods raw, under the right conditions of course. The cannibal sandwich has been warned against by the CDC, because many are simply using ground beef from the store, which is incredibly dangerous, as grinding the beef spreads the contaminants through the entire product, while with a steak, the contaminants will stay on the surface. This means something like raw steak, or steak tartare, a high-class version of a cannibal sandwich sans bread, can be eaten if prepared properly. Steak tartare, or a cannibal sandwich, should only be prepared with freshly ground steak and very carefully. 7 Your chicken can be pinkish and be fine. Always use a food thermometer. One of the cringiest memes on the internet, which are hopefully just jokes, and not people being serious, are amateur chefs making medium rare chicken that has a huge pink center, and talking about how good a chef they are. These people claim it gives it more flavor, and everyone exclaims in shock at the several diseases they are probably going to give themselves. Now, while that is truly dangerous, and probably, hopefully, not something people are actually doing, some people take it the other way. There are some people who will freak out if they see the tiniest bit of pinkish or even reddish in their chicken, which otherwise looks properly cooked, and they will keep putting it back in until it is dry as a bone, in the vain hope of getting rid of that bit of pink. The fact is, these are natural juices leaking out of the chicken, that discolor as they cook, and are nothing to worry about. What you should do is use a food thermometer to make sure every bit is at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit, then you know it is safe to eat. Preparing shrimp is incredibly quick and easy once it is ready to cook, but some people argue about the preparation steps before then. One of the steps often involved with preparing shrimp is called deveining, where you get rid of the little black gunky line in the back. This is the shrimp's digestive tract. However, some argue that while it may not be desirable to some, it is not a food safety issue at all, it is entirely about personal preference. Also, some chefs feel it often isn't worth it with smaller to middle-sized shrimp, as they often don't have a noticeable enough area to devein that it will actually affect the taste or make the dish gritty in a noticeable way. If you are worried about grit, most chefs do recommend deveining for lard. A chicken does not need to be washed. Cooking it to a proper internal temperature at all points of 165 degrees Fahrenheit will do the trick, and washing it just spreads dangerous germs all over your kitchen, invisible to the naked eye, that you are going to have a heck of a time trying to properly clean up later. To make matters worse, you now have the problem of potentially scraping your faucet with the chicken and getting chicken germs all over the faucet as well, which will then infect your drinking water and the water you are trying to wash your hands and clean up your germy kitchen with. Just don't do this, it is not necessary. 4. Just because you only see some moldy spots doesn't mean the rest is okay. One of the age-old myths is that if you have cheese, and in this particular case especially bread, that if you see moldy spots you can just cut the moldy spots out, and all will be well. Many people do not wish to waste food. Thanks to Listverse, where I can find new articles and share with you here. Source link is in description. Go and check it out.